I really, really didn't want to cover the protests. And that was the way most of the coverage of the story was going. And the protests were a significant thing that was happening in Nigeria and around the world. And especially in Nigeria, there's a lot of complacency, and people just can often feel fed up with the government and like they can't really do anything. So it's not very common to see big protests. And so there was a lot of coverage of the protests, but I felt like that was so much more about civil society and the people who were protesting, and wasn't really about the missing girls themselves. And I'd been working in the North for some time. And so I sort of knew how to get around. I knew how to talk to people in a way that was polite and respectful, and how to make my way into a community. And it occurred to me to try this with objects. And I didn't know, I just had the idea. I didn't know how far it was going to go. I went to the capital of Nigeria, Abuja, where there were some serious protests happening. And the people from the town of Chibok were among the protesters, of course. And so there were a lot of Kibaki people. And I basically just went down the line and I was like, hi, I'm Glenna. This is what I want to do. Hi, I'm Glenna. This is what I want to do. And most people were like, yeah, let me think about that and get back to you. Or let's discuss more. People, they don't know me, and I can greet them very nicely and they can consider it and think about it, but I needed to move quickly. And then this one guy, Sunday Samuel, who was missing his cousins, was just like, yeah, let me get on the phone to my brother, and sort of started making things happen for me right away. And I continued to meet with more people from the Kibaki community, and then did get more things from other people, but he was my first point of contact, and then he introduced me to other people as well. It was strange, like the girls who I had more stuff from, I felt like I knew them a little bit more. Like there was this one girl, one of the missing girls, is named Dorcas, and I had a picture of her, and I had her dress, and I had this notebook. And the notebook was like the most personal of the notebooks. There were little notes, like it was a correspondence back and forth between her and a boy. And what we had figured out was they must have been writing them on slips of paper, and she copied them into this notebook so she would still have all of them. So I saw this sort of relationship develop between her and this boy as I'm like flipping through this notebook. And on the cover of it is the Eiffel Tower, and on the first page there are drawings of hearts. And they have like a really sweet relationship. And at one point he says to her, "Hi, the remote control of my life." And I really sort of felt like I had a sense of who she was, and that, she's probably like a little bit of a spunkier girl, because she did have a correspondence with a boy, which is, that's a little risque in a remote town in northern Nigeria. When I first did the work, they hadn't been missing for that long, and it really, it didn't seem like they were never going to come back. It seemed like, okay, they're gonna take care of this. This is ridiculous. Like they can't just kidnap 300 girls, right? Like someone's got to do something about this. And I do think that people cooperated with me out of a sense of hope. I mean, now it's been more than a year, and it does feel different. It doesn't feel as hopeful. But on the other hand, there were recent elections in Nigeria, and the incumbent was voted out of office. And so far there's been he peacefully conceded, and hopefully there will also be a peaceful transition of power. And, I think it shows that people were deeply dissatisfied with the government. So maybe it'll change now, maybe it won't. I mean, I think that as much as people rallied around these girls, there are so many other girls who were kidnapped before, who have been kidnapped after, like girls who have been abused, girls who don't have the opportunity to make lives that are their own. And it's easy for, a really dramatic story like this to pull on our heartstrings, but it can't just be about those girls. It has to be about all of the girls. And I guess my hope is that whether or not these girls come back, that we can work for a more just world, and that the situation that can lead to the flourishing of a terrorist group like Boko Haram, which is, deep poverty, a total disconnect from systems of power, like disenfranchisement from the state, lack of opportunities for people to have jobs and feed their families. I hope those things can change too. As much as it'd be great if the girls were back, the problem won't be solved by them coming home.